So we're live. We're good to go. Hello. Welcome everyone to the 35th episode of the IET India Digital Conversations. Thank you for joining us today. It's good to see so many of you making the time for this session. I hope you, as well as your family and friends, are staying safe through these extremely difficult times. Uh, we see in India the second wave of the pandemic has been devastating, and we recognize that this has put immense stress on our members, volunteers, and partners. And our thoughts are with each one of you in these testing times. Every day, we are reaching out to our members and volunteers, and the stories coming from different parts of the country are really upsetting. Over the last week, we had diverted all our bandwidth and resources to respond to ecosystem calls for COVID-19 support. After speaking with multiple stakeholders across India, we have taken a call to keep our event schedule intact for now, because we had close to 200 people registering for this event today, so we had to make sure that we go ahead with this. But we are keeping a close check on the situation at hand, and if it becomes worse in the coming weeks, we will let you know of any changes to the forthcoming event schedule. I'm Suman Bhaumik, your host for the series, and I lead the events development for the IET in India. But before we begin our session, please allow me to take a couple of minutes and tell you a little bit about us and the IET. The Institution of Engineering and Technology, also known as the IET, is a global organization inspiring, informing, and influencing the engineering community to engineer a better world. As a diverse home across engineering and technology, we share knowledge that helps make better sense of the world to solve challenges that matter. At IET India, we want to grow actionable knowledge, want to solve India-centric engineering issues, and want to enhance people's lives using technology and thought leadership to drive innovation. Here's a short video about who we are and what it is to be part of the IET family. Allow me to play it for you now.
Our world is changing.
Engineering is changing.
Society is changing.
We are changing.
We're here to inspire,
Inform.
Influence.
And change perceptions.
Demonstrating how important engineers and technicians are in our lives.
Championing achievements.
Helping to create new technologies that enable us to thrive.
And inspiring future generations to make a difference.
Together, we discover new concepts by turning theory into practice.
Create solutions to society's biggest challenges.
Share knowledge and expertise through our networks.
Grow by developing new skills and capabilities.
Evolve and adapt for the future.
We are the IET.
Together, we are engineering a better world.
So now that we have seen that, coming to the session today, which is in partnership with our presenting partner Siemens, and is about understanding how edge technologies can boost your enterprise value. We know that edge computing has been long part of the hype cycle for its potential in driving digital transformation. Today, experts from Siemens across digital industries, smart infrastructure, and mobility will share how edge is driving new use cases and business opportunities for customers around the world and unlocking tremendous value. But before I start with the introductions of these experts who have joined us from Germany, Switzerland, India, please allow me to show you a short video about Siemens. That was a really nice and beautiful video. It's time to start the session, and I won't waste more time on talking about other things here. But let's do that by introducing our moderator for the session today, Nidhi Sharma. Nidhi is the Global Product Manager at Siemens Advanta India. She enjoys working at the intersection of technology, user experience, and business. Nidhi, I'll pass this over to you now. The screen is all yours. I'll be there at the background if you need me.
Sure. Thank you, Suman. Thanks, Suman, for this introduction. And hi, all, a very warm welcome. Thanks for having us here. We know this is a difficult time in India, and our heart goes out to all in this situation. We appreciate your time to join us. In this discussion, we hope you would have interesting time today together with our panelists. We are delighted to have experts from all over the world today and to bring in the different aspects of how Edge has potential to drive digital transformation. I would like to welcome our first panelist, Dominic Bittner. Dominic is a technology enthusiast since Lego age. His mantra is learning by doing. He's marketing manager for Siemens Digital Industries and is responsible for semantic applications for cloud and edge. Our next panelist, Michele Remonato, is a global product manager, inventor, and technology enthusiast. He's currently leading activities in the field of edge computing and connectivity for smart buildings in Siemens. And our third panelist, Dr. Tobias Schule, is a senior key expert, module lead for edge computing at Siemens Technology. He leads the pre-development activities in the area of edge computing. His main interests include IoT technologies and their applications to industrial use cases. Tobias has a PhD in computer science and several years of experience in software architecture and development. I would like to welcome all of our panelists. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi.
Hey, hello, it's a pleasure everybody. To be here today.
Thank you.
Great to be with you.
Super, thanks. According to the report, IDC's Futurescape, Worldwide IT Industry 2021 predictions, the number of new operational processes deployed on edge computing will grow from less than 20% today to over 90% in 2024. The Deloitte Insights has pegged 70% of all enterprises are likely to run data processing at the edge by 2023. COVID-19 affected the working environment and revealed the IT weaknesses in many companies. Thus, most organizations started to move towards intelligent implementations of cloud and edge computing in order to build up their IT resilience. Let's start by understanding the basics. Tobias, how is the edge computing related to industrial IoT, and what are the characteristics and benefits?
Yeah, so very good question. So maybe let me start with a brief recap of classical IoT. So in classical IoT, you typically have some field devices, such as sensors or actuators, that communicate with the cloud, either directly or via some gateway. And I mean, that's perfectly fine for applications where you have only a limited amount of data and where the processing is done mostly in the cloud. But for many industrial applications, that's not sufficient. So what edge computing does is that it introduces a layer in between, so between the field and the cloud, that allows you to do to carry out more complex computations. So in a sense, it completes the classical IoT landscape in a way that data can be processed close to the physical world, so where the data actually emerges. And yeah, I mean, this local processing capabilities is certainly a key driver, I think, for edge computing. But it's from my perspective, it's only half of the story. So another key aspect we should keep in mind is remote management. So with today's edge solutions, you can configure your devices, you can update them completely remotely. And that helps to improve security. So, for example, if you want to apply some patch, you can do this very easily without having to touch the devices. And last but not least, I'd like to mention extensibility, meaning that you can add functionality during the lifetime via apps. So that's pretty similar what we all know from smartphones. So to sum up, I think edge computing has many benefits. The first and maybe also the most obvious one is our fast response times. So by local processing, you can react very quickly to certain events at a very low latency or even in real time. So maybe this is also something which we will discuss a little bit more in detail later on. The other one is high availability. So being independent from your cloud-based backend, at least being not necessarily having a permanent connection, enables you to do operations offline. And last but not least, and this is something which is really important also for our customers, is improved security and privacy. So edge computing allows you to keep really highly sensitive data on the devices, on the shop floor, in the buildings, in the hospitals, and so on, and send only the less critical ones to the cloud.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Tobias. Dominic, in your opinion, what changed that enterprises need to care about edge now?
What changed? So first of all, let's think about the time frame of what we're talking about. I think in the last 5 to 10 years, everything in the automation and in the industry was about making single processes, standalone processes faster, adding more and more capabilities in terms of processing to machines and automation devices. That's even a trend that we also saw from the smartphone market even longer ago, when everything was about having a bigger screen, having more megapixels in your camera, having more connecting features and stuff like that. But at some point, we saw that we reached kind of a maximum when it comes to adding making devices faster, making them smaller, and stuff like that. And now we should more care about interconnecting these devices more efficiently. Because if you have a look at a production process, at any production, you will see that there is another huge leap in productivity, in effectiveness, which is a thing that was not taken care of a lot about in the past. And if you now want to more focus on exactly these points, you will see that there is now a huge increasing demand for flexible and smart data processing. And the tools that we introduced, or the tools that are on the market now, when you think about automation, when you think about PLCs, they are actually quite good in dealing with automation tasks that can be very simple up to very, very complex, having advanced motions and safety features and stuff like that. But there was not that much place actually for this advanced data processing. And that is why we now introduce Edge, and why companies and industry should think more about, because they now get the chance to also enhance their already smart automation with advanced data processing features. And that is for me now the point where I say it would make absolutely sense to start now exploring these new capabilities. They are not completely here by today. And we will see in the next couple of years that there will be getting more and more of these products, of these systems, and even this whole ecosystem is growing. Because we're now following a different approach that requires a different mindset. And the earlier you start getting onto this train, getting to learn what is possible now, where all this is going, the earlier you start, the better it is. So that's why I think it would definitely make sense to, as a company, to start with this journey, so to say.
Thank you, Dominic. Michele, I would like to bring you in here. So we see therefore a technology trend shift, isn't it? Like earlier enterprises were more keen on having on-premise data and applications. Then we saw a surge towards cloud adoption, and now we are going back to the device. So why do you think this is necessary now?
Yeah, thank you for the question. First of all, let's say a lot of people tend to see edge and cloud as alternatives. But I think the first step, whether you are getting started with the edge or whether you are already an expert, is to realize that they complement each other, that they are, kind of partners in crime. And if you are getting started with edge computing, or I think there are some key simple messages why this trend is happening. Why is that now edge computing is becoming so popular these days? I think there are three things that you can remember if you are getting started. First of all, as Tobias said, the first step was with IoT really getting connected. But soon we realized that our physical systems have limitations in terms of bandwidth and connectivity. So Edge brings a lot of value because we can flexibly pre-process the data, transform the data, do a lot of computation before it enters the cloud. So meaning it basically makes the journey through the internet. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge benefit, right? A second aspect is on the flexibility. So in the past, the traditional way of building middleware, so hardware and software, was to build a box that solved a certain problem and then sell it. But these days we have a lot of expectations that we can extend, maybe even let others develop software. Mm-hmm. And so that's also something that Edge enable, much more flexibility. We use the technology to deploy new software over time, and even in the future let more and more partners in the ecosystem, actually we already do it today, to develop and contribute in the to this layer that Tobias was describing, this edge layer. And I think there is also a third point, which it's true in the industrial application, is true in the infrastructure, in the buildings, which is that with Edge, we can manage the entire life cycle of the operation, starting from the engineering phase until, let's say, the phase out of the solution. And this is a huge benefit because throughout the life cycle, we have much more flexibility. So in a nutshell, why I think the trend is really relevant. One is really on the possibility to optimize cloud, right? The second one is really on the flexibility and the development aspect. And the third one is really on the life cycle, that Edge will enable, regardless of which industry you are talking about, to manage the life cycle of the solution throughout the entire throughout its entire story. So I think that's a little bit how I see it. And of course, there are many more reasons, but I think if you are getting started, this could be helpful to kind of keep in mind.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Michele. I think that's a very interesting point that you already brought out. Let's explore in terms of the application of Edge. And Dominic, I would like to bring you here. Could you share some of your favorite use cases where Edge can benefit?
Some of my favorite use cases. Actually, there are many favorite use cases that I have, but maybe let's start with the ones that I see that are most commonly asked, also from our existing customers. Because, as I just said in my previous statement, it's all about a journey where you have to hop on a train and explore things, and you involve yourself by exaggerating more products. And I think one perfect use case for starting is a very simple one. It's the use case that we call plug and analyze, because many of you guys, you have machines, they are working quite good, but it's actually very difficult for you to insight these machines a little better and to flexibly insight them. So you cannot just go out into a production hall, pick out your smartphone and say connect to a machine and then explore the data, how, for example, the performance or the product quality is evolving. And that is actually my personal first number one use case that everyone should experience to also get in touch with the tremendous possibilities of edge, where it comes to connecting machines. And you will see that connecting machines gets with edge very, very easy, because edge is able to speak many and well-known and standardized industrial protocols, which is important because we have many different PLCs, we have different vendors, we have different machines that are built in different times when other protocols were famous and stuff like that. And just Edge is able to connect all of them, whether it's an old protocol, a not commonly used one, a new protocol, the latest and greatest. You're able to connect it. And then you have one first elemental key success. You have access to the data. And then it's quite easy, because there are also a lot of tools and a lot of applications that allow you to analyze those data. You know, making cool graphs and charts like you used to do it from Microsoft Excel, where it's also quite easy to set up a graph and get any deeper insights, because I'm also one of those guys who loves to actually see the data, to see them working, to see them being displayed and stuff like that. And so that's actually my personal number one short-term use case, so to say, plug and analyze. And also, if I think a little bit into the future, what I see also as a very, very big use case in the future when things develop more and more is, how should I call it, model management. What is model management? You all guys know that artificial intelligence will also be one of the next huge leapfrogs in the automation environment. And industrial or AI itself, it is something that is a little, has to be considered as something that lives. An AI model lives. It's not like just a PLC code that you program and it works for years, for many years. AI is something that lives. And here we see a big leap, a big benefit in industrial edge, because it allows you to manage models, but not just that, because models are just one thing. You can also manage devices. Because we also see that the number of connected devices is getting more and more and more. Because those connected devices, they also get smaller and smaller. I always have here this small PCBs of an Arduino laying around, which is actually half a computer, and you see how small and how cheap they even get. And managing devices, updating them, will be a big thing in the future. So these are my top 2 favorite use cases. I have to admit, general ones, but I like them.
Great. Thank you, Dominic. So access to data, analyzing of that data, seeing it really in actual modeling, model management, and then, as you said, managing, therefore, also the devices. These were your favorite use cases. And Michele, maybe over to you now. Could you add from your side in terms of building automation? Where do you see, for example, the best use cases of edge?
Yeah, so let's say first of all, for those who are not familiar maybe with how the building works today, in the building there are a ton of devices. Building automation is one of the device areas that are available with BACnet, Modbus, but there are many other devices, meters, sensors, and they all have different protocols, because over the years they were built with different intents, and with Edge we are now bringing them all together. So it's similar to what Dominic described. The first step is with Edge, we have a flexible layer where we can, over time, add more and more intelligence to integrate all of these protocols and unite them all, right, through the Edge layer. So that's something we can already do today, you know. So if someone is curious, I'm sure you can Google it. You will find we actually have already quite some Edge devices. I have one just here next to me.
Cool.
Yeah. So for sure, the integration part, getting connected, but in a very cloud efficient way, because we can pre-process the data as I was describing earlier. But that's just one of the things we can do, right? We already today we can do quite a lot. So we can deploy new applications. We can even let partners do that on our ecosystem. But also we have quite a lot that we can do through the edge layer, and that's a second use case that I like so much. We can do a lot in terms of remote engineering. So through the edge, we can optimize engineering, onboarding of devices, and this is just something where I'm so excited because in my view, we're just getting started. And I see really that Siemens is not only investing, but really becoming a role model in this context, because we can do device management. We have simplified engineering workflows, and we continuously work on making the engineering more efficient for our customers. And, I can make it very practical for you. We can do that already today for HVAC systems, so for BACnet. We can do that for fire safety, right? I know we will talk a little bit more later how we are doing this, for example, in the service business. But I think in the context of the building, which was very static for many years, edge will completely transform many aspects of the building. So energy efficiency, safety, engineering time. So it's a very exciting period also for engineers, right, to be part of this. And by the way, we have a fantastic team in India that I work with, and many other colleagues. So it's a very good time also to work on edge computing for buildings, and also the infrastructure around it. I'm mainly focusing on buildings, but there are lots of other infrastructures around it, charger stations, grid edge, and so on. So yeah, so it's just a sneak preview of what people that are interested can do in this context. Yeah.
Thank you, Michele. And I think in this current scenario of COVID, it makes even more sense because a lot of our customers or owners of buildings, for example, they cannot afford to send personnel. And if that was possible to do it remotely, it would be the best. And especially with fire safety, I think we've heard some not very unfortunate cases also in case of hospitals. So this would really help the society as of now.
Absolutely, we see that the same, and we actually have already solutions available and to do that, because really the first step in our edge journey that we recommend to our customer is really to first use the edge to get connected, start collecting the data, and for what we call remote access, the remote engineering. But that's just the beginning, and so absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Tobias, I would like you to further enhance on this. The ability of processing large amounts of data in field, being close to the data sources itself has already been mentioned so far. Can you comment on some more use cases which are your favorite for Edge?
Sure. So first of all, apologies. I had some connectivity problems, and but fortunately I'm back, and I think that's the best proof that you should not always rely on some remote server. But seriously, no. I mean, we already spoke about local processing capabilities. So one use case I have in mind, or let me better say, class of use cases, is visual inspection for quality assurance. So suppose, for example, you have some production line where you produce workpieces, and you want to analyze them using a camera, whether they are defective, or not. So and this also applies, just to give a more concrete example, to welding in the automotive industry. So what you can do is you could create an image processing application, either a classical one or using machine learning. But obviously, it doesn't make sense to send the video stream of the camera to the cloud to do, for example, machine learning inference. So a much better solution is that you do this at the edge, and that you use only the cloud for monitoring trends in the production process. So for example, in order to detect whether the total number of defects increases over time, but you wouldn't use it for analyzing individual images. And but that also raises a couple of challenges we are working on here at Siemens. So the training you would still typically do in the cloud of these models, and you need some ways to bring this application then to the edge, where it is executed, and you want to have some monitoring capabilities. You want to be able to update your application, and this is something we have been working on in order to make the life of our customers much easier.
Great, thank you. And do you see also other areas? We already talked about, for example, manufacturing and at the shop floor. Maybe some more in terms of autonomous vehicles, which is pretty cool at the moment. Could you also add something there?
Yeah, sure. So I mean that's an interesting topic because it also allows us to look a little bit into the future. I mean, in logistics, let's say you have some autonomous guided vehicles. They need a lot of processing power to, for example, to get an image of the environment. They must communicate with each other. They must try to collaboratively solve a problem. And I think as a base technology here, edge computing definitely comes into play.
And what about healthcare? If we could apply edge in healthcare, what would be the best possibility?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if we think about medical diagnostics, imaging, like computer tomography or magnetic resonance imaging, I mean, image reconstruction has always been done locally, because it's a huge amount of data you have to process. But nowadays, we also have complex applications on top, for example, for diagnostics, that use AI to detect certain diseases. And often these applications on top run in the cloud. But I mean, patient data is for obvious reasons extremely sensitive. So many of our customers do not want to send it to the cloud for maximum privacy. So that's another use case for edge computing. So running these applications then.
Okay, thank you, Tobias. That brings us to see what happens in terms of the business value. So if we see, as we mentioned earlier, almost 70% of enterprises are going to implement edge processing by 2023. And IBM Insight states already leading organizations expect to realize an average return on invest of 24% within 3 years from edge computing investments. So, Michele, can you share some examples of what value edge can deliver for our customers?
Sure. We are extensively transforming service business, for example, for buildings. So again, I like that you picture this edge layer as Tobias was describing at the beginning. This edge layer will bring a lot of flexibility. And so we are exploiting it at the maximum already today in the service business by, first of all, we can already deploy edge devices, creating this edge layer. And in the context of the service business, this flexibility to deploy applications over time, depending on the need of what the customer needs to integrate, depending on which engineering workflows are needed, depending on which remote configuration or optimizing data collections at the edge. It's something we do extensively, and we see this as a trend across the globe, right? Where the edge layer will basically become a rich solution for doing engineering, data collection, and basically automate service. And we see this across the board, and that's a huge transformation that is taking place. Also addressing legacy, right? There is already a lot installed. Siemens is one of the major players around buildings, of course, and we see this transformation where, of course, the first step is connecting, but then service companies, or anyway, companies that maybe have to manage multiple buildings. Imagine, for example, during COVID time today, if you need to manage a certain particular device via the cloud, you need a very strong edge layer. So that's definitely something is transforming, and I think for enterprises, especially in the service area, it's a huge opportunity to automate work, but to also make it much more efficient for their end customer. A second area where Siemens is also active, and I think you will see over time growing developments, but I think is worth mentioning. And Dominic mentioned it for the industrial applications, but I think it's also relevant for buildings, is in the area of automation. So with the flexibility enabled by edge and all this additional computing power, there are going to be a lot of opportunities. We already have some today in the area of energy efficiency, of using, for example, in the future, AI at the edge to make the building more efficient, more automated. So edge automation is definitely an area where I expect, and we will probably see a lot of development, especially from Siemens, which will bring a lot of value, right? Not only for the customers and the end users, but also for the earth, because a more efficient building means less energy consumption, means a more eco-friendly environment. And and I think we also have a third chapter, which is really also enabling creativity of developers, partners, and so on, that over time will bring their domain know-how in the same edge layer, right? So we create already a lot of value today with service. We are in the process, and we will create a lot of value with automation with all the different applications ranging from engineering to energy efficiency. But I think also, and this is also the ongoing transformation, we will enable much more knowledge to flow into the edge layer with partners and, of course, customers that are interested to enrich this edge layer. And again, I want to iterate, it's a very exciting time to be working in this field. It's now the time where we will build it up and we will make it more and more mature. So it's a very exciting time.
Thank you, Michele. Do you think this would also lead not just to maybe a more optimized service cost, but also operating costs for such service business?
Absolutely. So the first step in the service case, for example, is of course to optimize their own operation costs. Imagine you have a service company that runs 1,000, 10,000, depends, buildings. So that's definitely one. But of course, there are also a lot of service companies that operate the building, so they're also responsible for the energy bill. So that's where edge automation will come into place. Or there are, in some cases, requests from governments to collect data from the buildings and to have it in a certain format, in a certain structure. For example, collect data and process it for energy meters or for sensors or for different devices that are in the building. So that's definitely, I think, a trend. It always starts with getting connected, but it then builds up, as you correctly asked, with optimizing the total cost of ownership of the building eventually, and also the infrastructure around it. Don't forget about it. It's huge, right? With green edge and so on.
Yeah, and maybe as you already mentioned, so even the workflows therefore could be automated better, because now all the several devices, how and what data to manage, all of this are now interconnected, and you can get this data readily.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tobias and Dominic are also two huge experts in this area, but I think it's absolutely relevant, right? Onboarding devices, configuring devices, changing their configuration over time. Through the edge layer, in a variety of different ways, we are working, and actually we have a lot of solutions already today to make this whole engineering more efficient. But I think the good message for the customer is that not only we have a lot today available, but also we are working on it to make it better over time. And we have very powerful technologies in this context, right? Containers is one of them, and I think Siemens is also a leader in this. But many other aspects will also emerge over time.
Thank you. Dominic, I think already we opened the door to your area. What is the value you think from Edge?
The biggest value for Edge, and I'm also glad, Michele, that you already mentioned this whole thing of operating, of managing solutions, because for sure setting up something to solve a specific task is only then good if it works properly and if you're able to keep the maintenance and the operating costs quite low. Maybe also to go back on this little thing here that I introduced you.
Yeah.
These wires and this stuff, that's not industry grade. That's nothing you can use in a production environment.
Yeah.
Because if you have to, if you can keep the one-time costs, the investment low, but you have tremendous costs and increasing costs in operations.
Yeah.
Where is the sense? And at the end of the day, we always have to consider value and effectiveness and benefit only comes if we have the total cost of ownership in our mind. I have to admit that is a term that comes from the commercial world, and as a tech enthusiast, I usually hate commercial words because dealing with figures is not my home turf. But in this case, they are very right. A solution is only as good as if it can be operated over the whole lifetime of these solutions, and this I think is a very big lever of Edge, and especially industrial Edge, because we take care about these things. We take care that the systems are updated, that the systems are delivered, and that they are running on industrial grade hardware, which can be used and can be operated for years, for decades, and maybe even longer. And that's what I see where the big benefit, or where the benefit for you comes, because no matter how hard or the first step will be, if you have no work and if you have no difficulties over the lifetime, then I think it's definitely worth in investigating in this project.
And do you think by deploying Edge, even the productivity for our customers at the shop floor could as well increase?
The productivity could increase, of course, because as said, this was just, so to say, the operating thing, because you also implement a solution because you want to solve a specific task. For example, you want to make maintenance more easier, or you want to control processes, or you want to automate processes. This is what you get on the pure topic side. The benefit on the pure topic that levels productivity, because you need less resources for maintenance, or you have fewer downtimes, you reduce production waste and stuff like that. And but the real productivity, I think, that comes if you have a look at the application over the whole lifetime, and there management, device management, application management, updates and stuff like this. Just imagine how often you have to update your computer. I know this is an extreme example, but updates and new features, they come in nearly every month or every quarter, and you have to bring them to your machines at the end of the day. And that's where I think you have the two benefits. One, from the application itself, and second, because the operation and the management gets easier.
Thank you. Thank you, Dominic. I would like to bring in also Tobias here. Tobias, we already saw all this, I think partner in crime was the phrase used by Michael earlier. So together with cloud and with all the analytics and diagnostic capabilities, what do you think is the big value proposition via Edge?
Yeah, I think so. We already spoke about key functionalities like remote management updates, containerized apps, etc. But I also think that edge computing itself, it's mainly a technology in the sense of a platform, that makes it easy for our customers to deploy custom tailored functions. But as we have seen in the introduction video, so we strive for technology with purpose, and the question is how can we create this this added value? And in the context of edge computing, I think this value comes from an increasing ecosystem of domain-specific apps that really help to optimize production processes, as Michele and Dominic already mentioned, to operate infrastructure, to save energy, and things like that. So it's not only the technical foundation, the platform itself, but also the apps you get as part of the solutions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And since you already brought the aspect of ecosystem, I would like to understand more about how this ecosystem is evolving, or who are the partners in this journey. Dominic, could you also elaborate on this part?
Yeah, for sure. If I get managed to unmute myself. I think basically the best example for an ecosystem is if we think back of our smartphones. Because what would be a smartphone if you just have a very nice looking machine that is able to set up phone calls and take fancy pictures? It's not that cool as we have it by today, because in the past years there was an ecosystem evolving around the smartphones, and this ecosystem was mainly focused or was of course there are other influences, but one of the main things that we see is that we have apps on there. We have apps like Uber, we have WhatsApp, we have I think in India, I always see this Trainman app. It's a lot of applications that actually bring additional value to the smartphones. And what I also think interesting is how fast these apps were evolving and how fast actually ideas make it to production. And there is one reason for this, because the cool thing about the platform is that with the platform, it is already considered and it is already taken care that there are some certain basic features. Because an app developer, like the WhatsApp guys, they do not have to take care about the CPU on a device, or they do not have to take care about the respective camera hardware.
Yeah.
They are just delivering the software, the features for a platform that is already there. And that speeds up and that boosts the development cycle of such application and at the end of the day solutions. Because WhatsApp was designed to communicate, to be a messenger service. It can be achieved much more faster. And this is for me the big lever of an ecosystem. Because there are parties that take care that the frameworks, that the boundings work correctly, that they are here, that there are that there is the respective platform features, also things like billing, that the legal perspective, who is allowed to publish it, what are the legal frameworks and stuff like that. That's all important to be part of, or to be the base, so to say, of an ecosystem. Because then people with smart ideas, with just want to focus on their domain knowledge, and the domain knowledge is bringing a cool idea into work, they can then just start with it. And they will be much more faster, they will be very, very fast in having first solutions available, because they do not have to take care about things which is not in their domain.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. So the framework is already coming. Let's say ecosystem is enabling that access already available. On top of it, apps, as you said, have to be deployed. And is it an open platform? Anybody could create their apps. How does that work?
That's actually a good remark, needed, to be honest, because I forgot to tell you the most important thing. Yes, it's open, because if you don't have an open platform, if you don't have an open system where everybody can contribute, it's worth nothing. And that's also what we see at Siemens with Siemens Industrial Edge as our key part, that it is open. That everybody can bring in their application. On the technical level, it is solved with being capable to run Docker containers. So Docker is also quite standardized and very widespread method to bring in applications that can be written in any programming language, just what you like, what you have access to, where you're an expert in, and making them, so to say, packing them in a standardized container, so-called Docker container, and bring it to the platform. And on the platform, you can benefit from onboard connectivity, because there are other guys that take care about the connectivity.
Yeah.
And you can use this connectivity. You can just simply use their modules and make your application even better. So at the end of the day, you just focus on what you're expert in. And for all the other things that are necessary to build a solution, someone else takes care. And that's the cool thing here.
Great.
Which actually speeds up and brings faster time to value.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Tobias, would you like to add here, like, are there more technology players in this who are also collaborating in this space?
Yes, absolutely. So collaborating with a couple of IT players. I think what we can bring in is the domain know-how, because we know our customers now for a very, very long time. So we understand their requirements. We understand also their concerns. And for this reason, I think it's a very fruitful collaboration if the IT players and the OT players like Siemens collaborate. Does that answer the question?
Yes, yes. And I was reading somewhere that we already are collaborating with Google Cloud and also Red Hat to have these kind of open architectures set up. So these players would become more common as we go ahead, or?
Maybe Dominic knows more about this. Yeah, so there's a collaboration with Red Hat concerning cluster management. Yeah, in the context of MindSphere, and recently Siemens announced collaboration with Google concerning AI. Yeah, so that's what I previously mentioned. Yeah, so the idea is, or the question is, how do you develop your AI models? Yeah, how do you bring it to the edge? And yeah, so we are always very much interested in collaborating with external partners here.
Thank you. And
to also maybe hang on this Google aspect that you mentioned, which is quite new. I don't know if it already made around the globe, so to say, with this news, but here we also have an effect, or the idea of this collaboration is that you get in people on the boat, everybody who has experience in a certain level, that these guys are able to bring in their domain knowledge making it accessible for everybody. So everybody in the community, everybody in the edge ecosystem that is participating, whether you're a machine builder, an end customer, or just someone who wants to try out this ecosystem and want to maybe build up an own business. It is that we have the chance to bring those guys together on one platform, to make them speak to each other, to work, to collaborate on one level. And with the Google collaboration, of course, I do not have to tell you this because Google has absolutely great machine learning algorithms when it comes to certain cases, and why not use them? Why not bring those methods, those advanced capabilities to a platform and access it and make a solution, make something around it that you can work with? And that's why we are setting up more and more collaborations like this, because we really see that this brings you as the customer who work with the system, that this brings you forward. That's the purpose of this. Why we're doing things.
Thank you. Michele, would you like to also add?
Yeah. In the context of smart buildings, we have two mottos. The one that comes from our division and the one that comes from our business unit. They are the following. We want to create environments that care, and we want to create perfect places. And for me, Edge is just a technology that enables us to do this. So when I look a little bit more forward-looking, energy efficiency, as I mentioned earlier, is a topic. But what is going to be very interesting are, in my opinion, two aspects. First, how are we going to leverage AI, right, to make the building even smarter? We all have watched this science fiction movie where the building seems to adapt based on what the user is doing. I'm not sure how long it will take, but I'm sure we will get there. And for me, Edge is just one of the technologies that is going to enable us to really create an adaptive building which reacts in real time to interactions with users and the environment as well. So I think AI is definitely one extremely interesting. And the second forward-looking topic is, as we accumulate data over the building, and as I mentioned earlier, with Edge, we now make all these different protocols and legacy devices talk to each other, and we collect all this data. I'm sure there are going to be a ton of ideas and applications that maybe we cannot think about today that will come over time. And these are two more forward-looking opportunities, but I'm sure they're really there for us to grasp and to kind of work on as we mature. And definitely the third point is, and it is as relevant as it is in the industrial automation, that we want to also bring partners over time that can contribute with their domain know-how. I think we are extremely strong in everything that is around automation, safety, and so on for buildings. And it's also interesting to have, over time, partners that can collaborate and bring more knowledge. So in a nutshell, I think AI will play definitely a key role, and it remains to be seen exactly what it will mean for buildings. But again, I have the science fiction movie in mind. We have the topic of data, really, that will enable a ton of opportunities and applications. Also, a lot will depend on the creativity of the developers, right? And there are a lot of really good developers in India, and so I hope they also consider Siemens, as a top technology player. And finally, really the ecosystem, because we will not do it all by ourselves. So these are really three core points. And I think we really want to do it with the purpose, right, of making buildings a perfect place, but in general also to care about the environment. And I think that's a very interesting field to be in. Yeah.
Thank you, Michele. Tobias, if we were to look into this crystal ball and explore the future, what do you think is the future for edge computing, and what could be the very cool advancements that we can see in the coming years?
Yeah, there are many topics. So Michele already mentioned AI as one important topic. So for the near future, I think edge computing will become more pervasive in the sense that various devices, from small IoT devices will offer some edge functionality up to really high-end scalable servers. Because today, if we talk about edge computing, we usually have some industry PCs and controllers in mind. This will be much broader in the future. So so edge computing will not only connect the IT and the OT world, but it will create some sort of continuum where you can dynamically deploy functions or workloads where it fits best on different devices. And one trend I would also see is a shift from mainly data collection and processing towards control applications that interact with the environment. Today, it's typically one way. So you collect data, you process it, but there's not much interaction. And that raises the question, for example, do you need to be able to do this in real time? I don't think this will make classical controllers obsolete, but maybe less critical control applications may be executed at the edge. And if you're trying to look a little bit further into the future, then I think the hierarchies we spoke about will increasingly dissolve. So we will see distributed, collaborative systems, edge devices that communicate with each other. So you already mentioned the autonomous vehicles, in logistics. So that's I think a very good example. And but that also raises a lot of challenges. We are looking forward.
Are there any very core challenge that you think at the moment which needs to be overcome in order to move forward?
I think that the core challenges we have already addressed. So there are certain requirements like let's say security, encryption, so isolation. You want to make sure that different apps don't affect each other. So this is something we already have in our products. But regarding connectivity, I think there are a lot of new topics coming up. So consider 5G, for example.
So do you think with 5G, so there has been delay, as we know, there was a hype of 5G, then COVID wave happened, and then maybe soon enough we hear that it is getting actually rolled out. So it would improve the situation with edge, or do you see there would be now a higher possibility to process data directly in the cloud? So then do we still need to process it near to the device?
I don't think 5G will make on-premise solutions obsolete. It will be another layer that extends the spectrum. And I mean, there's a technical report from the Linux Foundation about the edge. And what they are saying is they're distinguishing between the user edge and the provider edge. And I think that latter, this is something which can definitely benefit from 5G. But the user edge will very likely persist.
Okay, thank you, Tobias. Dominic, in your opinion, what is in store for the future?
What is in store for the future? That's actually a good question. Unfortunately, my crystal ball broke a few weeks ago, so I I have to rely this more on what we have by today. Usually, so I'm also glad, Tobias, you pointed out that the context of 5G in this whole thing. Usually these discussions are always going in the direction, why do I need edge if I have cloud and 5G in the future? Others say, why do I need cloud if I have edge? And others say, why do we even need 5G if we have cloud and edge to use edge as, so to say, a pre-processing unit? And the answer is that every of these three components has we need in the future, because at the end of the day, it's about the solution that you want to set up, and each of these components, it has its individual benefits. Just imagine you want to enable people all around the globe to have access to a certain data set. Why should you set up I don't know how many VPN tunnels to access an edge device? Mm-hmm. Of course, you grant these guys access to those data via the cloud, because with the cloud, all these unnecessary, or no, unnecessary is the wrong word, all these things that nobody wants to do, like taking care about user management, rights management, system availability, it's all covered by the system. Mm-hmm. So you just use it for as it is, for what it is. You just use it as something that allows you to access global data. Edge, for example. Why should I shift around machine data, just sensor data that is not often changing, for example? Why should I shift it around the whole globe and just put more tension on our networks? Yeah. Of course, here I use Edge because Edge has perfect capabilities of pre-processing and filtering data. Mm-hmm. And you see where all this is going, or what I want to say. Each of the system, it has very unique it has very unique strength points that in combination are able or give you the chance to build whatever you want, whatever use case, whatever solution you want to implement, you can do it with these three systems. So I would say in the future, all of those three things that I mentioned, mm-hmm. they are getting further developed, they are evolving, and the intersection, or let's say the linkage of these systems, it's getting bigger and bigger. So it's not a question, edge or cloud or 5G, it's an and, something that all comes as one in the future. That's Super. What I think where this is going.
Thank you, Dominic. Michele, to end this discussion, one more question. So in that future of those science fiction movies that you are quoting, you see a lot of machine-to-machine talks happening? Would there be a Tinder of machines? Would that happen?
Absolutely. So all the technologies that we mentioned, be it 5G, be it an innovative, for example, MB IoT sensor, and so on, they are always going to be built with a specific purpose, and there always going to be a need for an intelligent layer that makes them communicate, interact, exchange data, and then whatever the use case is going to be. Being it storing semantic data in the cloud or closing the loop with AI directly on site, I think this intelligent layer will become a sort of a brain. For example, for the building, it will be the brain of the building. For a factory, it will be the brain of the factory. And so over time, what I think is and that's why I really truly believe that it's an interesting time to be in this field, is that there's going to be a ton of technologies available where companies, developers, partners can cherry pick what they like, the specific problem they want to solve. And I think piece by piece, they're going to make this intelligent layer more and smarter, and it's going to become like a real brain in a way. And I expect that over time, all of these devices are going to start gradually communicating even to each other. So today, they all talk into the edge layer. But sooner than later, they're also going to become more interactive between each other. So I think it's a very, again, interesting future and development. And as Dominic said, It's hard to guess what is going to be the one technology that's going to be the most popular, or what's going to be the one solution is going to be the most popular. I think to a certain extent, it almost doesn't matter. What it matters is that we have a growing ecosystem of technologies, know-how, participants that can grow it. And then it will remain to be seen exactly what the solutions will be. But I think for any participant, what is interesting is that it's a thriving environment. And the industrial colleagues have very interesting applications in the factory. We have very interesting application in the grid, in the building. So I think it's very interesting time to work on it, to put your brain into it, and then we will see what the future brings.
Super, thank you. And with that, I think now we could open the floor for audience questions. I would go by them one by one. So there is one question, maybe some of those are answered. You could reiterate where necessary. So how does Siemens see Edge plus AI as platform with real-time control loops and OTA-based AI inference models that can scale with requirements? I think maybe Tobias, you started with AI topic. So how would this inferencing go ahead?
Yeah, so typically the inference would be done at the edge device, yeah, and the model deployed over the air, yeah. As already briefly discussed, that requires appropriate tool chains, yeah, that allow you to to validate, to optimize, to deploy your models, and also to monitor them, because you want to know how well these models perform. Yeah, and whether you have used the right data for the training. Concerning real-time control control loops and AI, that's definitely a very interesting and important topic. Actually, we do have solutions that allow you to directly connect with real-time PLCs. But I would say in most of the cases, AI applications are not subject to real-time constraints. And if so, of course, you have to make sure that you meet all the requirements, the deadlines, which is definitely not trivial.
Okay. Thank you, Tobias. Michele, there is one question, because we already established how cloud or edge, they are partners in crime. So one question is, do you think that putting intelligence in edge or device side is a bit challenging than in cloud?
I think, first of all, they complement each other, you know, and whether there's going to be more intelligence in the edge and less in the cloud, or vice versa, or it's a perfect split. This purely depends on the use cases, the problems that we want to solve for our customers. For example, in a factory environment, there's probably going to be pure edge play is probably greater. In the context of service business for buildings, for example, it's a more balanced split, but eventually it doesn't matter. What matters is that technologies are available to solve problems of customers, of users, to make the environments more efficient, more efficient. So I think the answer is the two technologies are available, and what's the balance between the two of them depends on the use case. I don't think either of the two is gonna kill the other. I think they're gonna always thrive together, you know. And one example is, for example, in a completely different domain, is Netflix. You know, Netflix built its entire infrastructure on AWS, purely cloud-based, and then they realized that they needed an edge infrastructure. And of course, it was a big enough business case for AWS, and AWS has built a gigantic edge infrastructure. It's more on a telco, telecommunication infrastructure, but they live together, right? They don't undermine each other. They complement each other. So I think the technologies are there, and now we need to use them with the right purpose. which is also our motto in Siemens: technology with purpose.
Yeah. Thank you, Michele. Tobias, there are some engineers in the group, and the question is, how can engineers get started with edge computing?
Yeah, good question. So I would recommend having a look at the major edge platforms. So at least, I mean, speaking for ourselves, but or concerning digital industries, Dominic, please extend what I'm saying. So we are providing examples, we are providing tutorials and stuff like that, starter kits, that makes it easier.
Yeah. And also to put this question a little bit more in focus, one thing that also has to be considered is how you want to participate in this with industrial edge. So is it how can I set up an environment that runs additionally to my automation system, or how can I as an automation engineer contribute and develop, so to say, my own app, or how can I as an engineer access data more easily? And I also can point out here to what Tobias said. We are now at the stage with Siemens Industrial Edge, especially where we just entered the market. We just recently released the platform for still selected customers, because as said, this is something completely new. We have to think about everything from the beginning. It's not that you say you take everything we have from the automation world, just copy it, and everything goes as it is. No, we have to think completely from the beginning in some cases. And what we do here, or what we will release in the next couple of weeks and months, are, as said, these starter packages that include everything to get on the block, to get started with what you have. And this is basically the best idea to get onto the topic. And I cannot stress this even more. We want to have an open platform. So if you start with anything, it's better to go with it. If you want to start with learning a programming language like, I don't know, JavaScript, Python, or something like this, which is quite easy, you can do it. And if you want to get, if you want to know more about this, also please feel free to contact your local Siemens representative, because they're also happy and eager to help you out there and grant you with the latest information, what is available, when will it be available, and to keep up the community flow in here.
Will that also work for non-engineers? There's also a question, is it possible for non-engineers or without technical background to start and build something on edge computing without much strong technical understanding?
You mean as an app developer, for example, Nidhi? Yeah, of course. We also have recently released the app developer guide. That gives some first information about how to develop an industrial edge app, what you have to take care about this. And as I said, if you just have a cool idea, but you do not want to take care about how do I bring things to a PLC, how do I include it into a machine, how to, I don't know, take care about safety features and just stuff like that. I just have the idea, just have to have a cool application in my mind. Then you can start with this. You can easily start. And there's also another thing I want to mention is we also work on including Mendix. Mendix is a low-code platform, or even a no-code platform. So that is really just something that is also for those guys who are just happy if they can open PowerPoint and Excel quite properly. So for the non-programming guys in this way. So we will have features, we will have tools that make it possible for everybody to contribute, even with non-technical background.
Super. Thank you, Dominic. I think we
Welcome.
already answered most of the questions. There was already one question regarding opportunities that 5G brings with edge computing. I think we already have addressed that. So with that, we come to an end of our panel discussion, and thanks to all the panelists and also the audience who were joining us for interesting questions and interesting insights. So as we see the edge, we are on the edge of the future. So edge can transform the computing landscape, propelling the world to the next generation of connectivity, high response time, greater autonomy, faster data processing, together with cloud, AI, and other technologies, even augmented reality, virtual reality, 5G. Any enterprise with right infrastructure will be able to make better interpretations, learn, and make faster decisions, leading to higher operational efficiency. So with that, I will hand you back, Simon.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you, Michele, Dominic, Tobias, for this wonderful and insightful session. I think much has been talked about edge over the years, and what I like typically about this session is how crystal clear we were with the kind of examples, use cases, insights, and we talked about various industries, various examples, and how making it actually very simplified for people to understand. I understand that with the advent of 5G in India, this will be much more amplified, and we'll be able to tap into the technology much more. But having said that, it was all around a topic well connected and well covered by all of you here. Thank you, Nidhi, for this wonderful moderation part. I'm sure the audience have enjoyed a lot too on this. I could see there are some people who would want to connect with our speakers to understand more about the Siemens platform and the Startup Connect system. We'll help people with that. But in the meanwhile, it was great to see everyone after a while being present for this session today, an important session as we say. But more important than that, seeing so many people turn up and give us their time, it really extends our warmth and appreciation for all of them. We would want you to take care, stay safe, and during these testing times, if you would need any support from us, from IET, if you're a member of the IET, a volunteer of the IET, or any of the partners of the IET, please do reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to support you in whatever way possible. We will see you again soon with our next session, which is about the confluence of real transformation and Industry 4.0. That is something that is very important coming up in a few weeks. Until then, thank you, everyone. Take care. God bless, and stay safe. Have a great weekend.
Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.